Good evening, everyone. Today, November 7, 2023, at 6 p.m., I call for order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Supervisor Aliaga.
Here.
Clerk Newbeck here. Treasurer Brown.
Here.
Trustee Morocco.
Here.
Trustee Nalamothu. Here. And Trustee Ritchie.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the agenda, but we're gonna remove a couple items, which are we're gonna remove item second from the regular business, which is request to accept the big proposal of Grand Rider, and we're gonna remove the budget session from Director Rick Jagger. So those two items are gonna be removed. So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda by removing L, regular business, item number 2, bid proposal for grant writer, and M, closed session, budget session, study session, item number 1, budget session from the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Board and public announce, excuse
I'm
me.
sorry, we actually need a motion now to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Carrie.
Mhm.
All right, now we can go with board and public announcements. Board members or individuals in the audience may make a statement containing information about a recent or upcoming event. I have one. Last week on November 2nd, we actually finalized the purchase of nearly 39 acres of land on Perry Lake, which is going to be added to our parks, or Clinton Wood Park. It's a really great opportunity for us, and I want to thank the board. So this is almost 39 acres that are going to be added to the park, so I think it's going to be a really good thing for our community, and that we're going to be working with Parks and Rec to see what we're going to do. Looking forward, we have good ideas. I'm going to be updating the board soon what we're going to be doing there, but it's a good acquisition for a township. You know? Any other board comments?
Carrie.
No? Carrie? Sure.
Township is still seeking qualified applicants, to assume the vacant position that resulted in the resignation of trustee Matt Stoyan. The clerk's office is accepting the applications until Thursday, November 9th at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. And that's all I have.
Okay. Anyone from our audience would like to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is David Ziegler, 9865 Allen Road, Clarkston. I had a discussion with Mr. Aliaga, thank you,
Sure.
about 10 days ago regarding the permission of the township, if you will, to regulate speed limits on gravel roads. He informed me that that is a responsibility of the state. And in my particular situation, the speed limit, the way I understand it, on gravel roads in Michigan is 50. On Allen Road, where I live between Radley Lake and Oak Hill, is barely wide enough to have two pickup trucks passing each other without getting somebody's tires muddy on the shoulder of the road. So my idea is that if we could get the speed limits reduced to 25 or 30, that would allow those people on the narrower gravel roads to more safely turn out of their driveways, especially since the overgrowth of trees on that road prevents you from seeing left or right unless you stick your bumper out into the road. So that only, and the children that live in the homes along any gravel road should be probably further protected with a lower speed limit. And okay, I was waiting for a comment, whether or not that's possible.
Yeah, we are working on it currently, and the previous administration actually, they working in the past, but now I have some ideas and I can share with the board how to be more effective and have local control. Because right now there's the issue of local control between the state and the townships and cities, so.
The situation is, most of my neighbors drive 25 or 30 anyway. However, when there's a situation out on M15, the roads, that parallel M15 then become through highways. And of course, then they drive 50 miles an hour to get around whatever the holdup is on M15. And there are a lot of cars that do that, and it makes it kind of risky. So anyway, that's my point of view. And while I'm up here, where do I go to have a traffic light installed at M15 and Radley Lake Road? The whole
Sure.
idea would be to interrupt traffic somewhere between Seymour Lake Road and Hubbard down by Independence Elementary. That would make turning in and off, or right or left, if you will, from M15 more safely, and turning on to M15 with a greater interruption of that traffic flow, especially during rush hour.
I'll just share a couple things with you.
All right.
The second question is, I think that's probably involves both the road commission and the state, because M15 is a state road. So I don't know which one you start with, but it would be, it's going to involve two different groups.
So would that be something
I-
I would start? Or is it something our elected officials would
I
pursue?
actually got your email. I already forwarded to our building department and zoning, so I'm working with them. I'm gonna follow up tomorrow morning first thing. I will get back with you for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be fine. You
Yeah.
have my email, correct?
Yeah, I got your email and your phone. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
of course.
Any questions?
So,
I just want to make a statement. I live on a dirt road and I agree, it's very dangerous. We've lost pets because people are doing 50, 60 miles an hour. The dust is unbearable. So, I mean, I represent the dirt road for sure. As far as the light, I know that when we tried Fleming's Lake Road, there was issues because it was a dirt road with a traffic light going to a paved road. So your challenge will be the need, and the only time they're gonna interrupt a state highway or state road like M15 is if there was enough need to generate from the side street, and that's where your challenge will be. It'll be very hard to prove to the state that you have so much volume east and west on the dirt roads that it requires a light. That's going to be the hurdle. That's what the other hurdles have been when people have tried it, is the opposing traffic to the light being generated enough to disturb the main flow, so just heads up, that's gonna be a
And
big hill to climb because of that, their standards of, the egressing traffic from the side street not being high enough
that would
volume.
involve traffic counters and things like that.
You'd have to get somebody to pay to do a study and do all of that.
Okay, so does that come from me? And then I would need a phone number.
I will follow up with you tomorrow about that. I
Okay.
will have the answer for you by tomorrow. But about the speed limit, actually, we're gonna talk today about that. I have an idea I'm gonna present to the board about how we can solve some local issues. So
Sweet.
it's, maybe you should stay and see. I mean, it's item one I'm proposing the board, and I don't want something that may help with the speed limit and other local issues, because we have several issues in the township. Looking at a solution to actually somebody that represents us in Lansing and to be able to address some of these issues and bring solution to the problem as well.
Super.
Okay. Sure.
Super. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Locke.
Okay, anyone online? Okay. Public comments. Any individual would like to address to the board? Public comments? No? Okay. We don't have public hearing. You have presentations and report. Or Treasurer Paul A. Brown.
Hello. I'll leave these on. We're getting used to this now. We try to get ourselves now into a rhythm with doing these every 3 months, and I'll jump right into it. So, as you can see here, a lot hasn't changed here. I continue to have the maturity distributions pretty consistent with sort of a diversity of those maturities, but keeping quite a bit within a year, within a year to 2 years, really big chunk of it. The investment types, again, I'm super heavy in treasuries right now, and when we look at the actual investments, we'll see the interest rates that I'm getting for that. So the key thing here is that, and I'm going to go to the second page to show this, and we've been tracking the unrealized losses. It says gains and losses, but I think we're still a little bit away from seeing gains. So we've talked quite a bit about why this happened as we buy investments at low interest rates, and the interest rates get increased by the Federal Reserve. That value of that asset immediately declines. Its market value. Face value, as long as we don't sell it, we'll collect at the end. Right now, we made up about $200,000. So our unrealized losses are at 807, and that's down from $1 million, and that's expected. And we should see that to continue to happen because the Federal Reserve's policy right now is kind of holding steady. And so if they don't do more rate increases, we're guaranteed to decline that loss as the larger investments we have that are at lower rates work their way towards maturity and increase in value along the way pretty consistently. Not much change here. Average yield increased a little bit, and the average yield since March is almost 5% now. And the average weighted maturity, again, not a significant change. And for the most part, that's because I'm simply laddering things in the near term, because we've got some rather large investments, $2-3 million, that are in the 2 to 3, 4 year range. So I don't have the opportunity yet to put a lot further out to take advantage of the rates where they're at. And it's something we discussed at the Investment Advisory Committee meeting. And but we think I'm getting to that point where I'll start to look a little bit further down the road and say, yeah, we should put some money out at 3 years at 5.5%. Interest rates are going to come down at some point, and we want to make sure that we've made sure we have the cash flow we need, but that where the opportunities out there in the next year, we get a little bit more money out further, and that'll help us with our interest income for the next 2-3 years. So the change here, I did put an explanation of what the different categories of Public Act 20, this was something the board requested, and so this explains what makes these up. And so this column here is reporting where it fits within Public Act 20, and I'll let you look at that. Over here, you'll see that the yields we're getting, if I go back to December last year, it was in the 4s, and it's just steadily climbed up, in the 5.5 now, even a little above that. Not a lot of other things to talk about with this, but I did do an interesting thing. I looked at one of the investments that was at, and I actually have a little sheet for it. It's kind of a buy-sell analysis, and let me blow it up a little bit. I thought to myself, what if I sell this, take the $20,000 loss, I'm only making 2.85%, and I can go get 5.45 at the time I did this. And so I calculated it all out, and I'll tell you, the market is really smart. It's really smart. This thing's got a $20,000 loss because the people that would buy it, they know what the trade-off interest rates are. Because at the end, when I calculate this thing out and say, well, if I sell it right now and reinvest it, how much money do I have at the end? It's within $1,100. Like I can't really do anything to try and change the fact we've got things that currently have losses. The same is going to hold true for things that have gains. And this is something that occasionally the board has asked, going back some years, does it make sense to sell something I've got a gain on and then reinvest it? if I've got a gain on it, it's because it's got a higher interest rate than the market's currently giving. And I won't come out ahead. Marginally, or maybe a little, it's not worth the effort. And so this was kind of fun for me to do, because I kind of proved it to myself that I'm not any smarter than the market, and the market controls the value of these investments, so. We're in good shape. Obviously, you know, Matt is not here, and he wasn't at the investment committee meeting, but they were comfortable with, again, what I was doing, and we talked quite a bit more about looking at cash flows, and I've tried to dial in where I'm at on the cash flows, because if I can, you know, I've tended to keep $3 million in the bank account as my level that I knew we were going to spend over the next month or so. But if I can dial that in a little tighter based on cash flows, that extra $1 million at, you know, at 5%, it's worth 50 grand for the year. So it's worth the effort for that kind of money to spend a little extra time every week looking at cash flows, and that's kind of what I'm doing now with the investment transactions. So, any questions?
How many people are on your advisory?
So there are myself and another board member, and then I have 5 other community members who sit on it. Interestingly enough, I started this, I want to say, in 2013. We used to have advisors that advised the treasurer on what to buy. And when I came into office in 2012, we were spending $30,000 a year to get the advice from the advisors. And I looked at the portfolio, and it was 98% in treasuries. I mean, why do I pay money to tell me to buy the safest investment in the world? I asked the board to essentially fire them, and I was going to form this advisory committee, and that's what we did. And it was kind of not running for a few years, and I wasn't here between 19 and last year. But we've come back, and I've reestablished it. Got some really, really sharp people. I've got one gentleman on it who was the investment manager for an insurance company. He handled a $1.5 billion portfolio. So I've got some real firepower looking at this. At the end of the day, my ability to invest is extremely small. State law requires me to follow these guidelines. I can't invest in any equities. I can't invest in things that are super risky. So it's a small window, and we just try to do the best we can. And the 3 key components of it, number 1 is to protect the principal. And number 2 is to make sure I have liquidity for our spend. And as long as those 2 are done well, number 3, get whatever return I can get, but it's certainly way below the other 2.
So there is no money from the township that's invested in the stock market?
No, it's not allowed.
Because of state law?
Yep. Public Act 20 is what guides us, and it specifically identifies the things that local governments can invest in. And it's to protect, because years ago, a lot of people lost a lot of money because treasurers invested in things they shouldn't, especially some derivatives that were very impacted by the interest rates. So a lot of people lost a lot of money. This law really protects the taxpayers.
And you said that why do I want to call it a slush fund? You mentioned $3 million? Is that
The checking account, how much I have in the checking account for typical spends. When I fall below 3 million, I'm looking at my next check run, my next bond payment, anything that's happening in the next 2 weeks to make sure, you know, I have enough to cover the next expenditure.
And then is there a rainy day fund with the township as well?
The township has some money. That's probably, if you watch the agenda and come back during the budget session, that's a great place to talk about that
Okay.
and understand that part of it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? All right.
My only nitpicky thing was on the last page where you showed the items that are invested, like A, B, C, and that.
Oh,
For us old people, could you just make that font a little bit bigger?
what's that?
So, make the font a little bit bigger for that page.
Going forward, your
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. How's this for you?
Yeah.
Does that work?
I did the same
Well,
thing
that's
in
true,
my
yeah.
report, so,
In his packet.
How's that?
thank you.
You good? All right.
That's what I had to do to read it to you.
And for anyone who this is their first time, we do like to have fun while we're doing our job, so.
Okay. Thank you, Treasurer Brown. Nice.
Just closing it. Is anyone else using this?
Oh, yeah, they're gonna use that.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, we now have a carryover or postponed agenda items, so consent agenda. In the consent agenda number 1, we have request to approve the Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes of October 24, 2023, and a special meeting minutes of October 24, 2023. Number 2, request to approve the October 31st, 2023 check run, including the ACH of $1,143,787.09, and ratified October 13, 2023 payroll of $340,526.22, and October 27, 2023 payroll of $315,750.70. Number 3, request to approve the interlocal agreement between Oakland County and Independence Township for the purpose of IT services. Number 4, request to approve the election inspector wage adjustment and association miscellaneous costs. And number 5, request to approve license agreement between Oakland County and Independence Township for use of the Brady Lodge and Bay Court Park as a early voting site, which is a very good idea. And I need a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, now to regular business. Number 1, we had the request to accept the bid proposal of governmental relations and lobbying services. So, as you know, we are part of OCAS, which is a group of supervisors. We always share ideas. And then I was talking a few months ago with Chris Barnett, Orion supervisor, and he told me that he and his brother were hiring different lobby firms, and Chris Barnett got $10 million out of Orion for his roads, out of appropriations from Lansing. I said, wow, that's a great idea, Chris. So he advised me that it will be a good idea to try. I mean, some of the services Chris pays is very, in comparison what he's getting, he told me it's around $4,000 a month. I said, well, okay, I think that sounds good. If you pay him $4,000 or something like this a month and you're getting $10 million for your roads, I think that's something I want to take a look on it. So, and during these few months, I got several phone calls, email, like Mr. Ziegler, that he has a issue that is related to Lansing, NDOT, and some other organizations. And, you know, we have to go to a lot of red tapes, a lot of issues to be able to accomplish something. So I saw it will be good to present this opportunity to you guys, because by having a lobbyist in Lansing, it will represent us in that way that can expedite some, not just an idea, but expedite some good things that we can get, maybe money from appropriations, or maybe some local issues like Mr. Ziegler. We can be able to resolve problems that we couldn't done it before, because sometimes we don't have time to drive to Lansing and stay there checking out what the legislation is doing. Like, for instance, we have this problem with the pay fees and the franchise, you know? And then sometimes the supervisors just can reach out to one senator or one rep that represent us, but it's not just, we need more than one vote. So I invite people from Midwest that are recommended for tonight to make a presentation about their services and what they can do for us. Mike and Adam, can you guys come, and if you guys can present yourself and tell us what you can do for us?
Sure, thank you. And maybe. All right, there we go. Well, thank you, members of the board, Supervisor Aliaga. I am Mike Compagnoni. I'm a lobbyist at Midwest Strategy Group in Lansing. Adam Wright is here with me as one of my coworkers. I am very privileged to be here, and I should mention off the bat, I'm a former township resident. I actually live just across the line in Springfield Township and Clarkson School District. My family's from here, and I think that's a big part of why I'm really excited to come here and kind of represent my hometown and do work in Lansing related to it. I want to talk a little bit about what our firm does, and then a little bit about kind of how we operate. But first, a quick introduction for us. We are a team of 10 full-time lobbyists in Lansing. We are located a block from the state capitol. We cover every different issue area you could possibly imagine. We have about 150 clients in all different sectors, everything from local governments, the Michigan Municipal League, the Michigan Townships Association, many of the associations you guys are familiar with and work with, all the way up to big national companies, names you've heard of, Facebook and Meta, MasterCard, CVS, Aetna, Waymo. So I do work with the Google Autonomous Car Project. So all different areas across the board. We do a lot of local government related work. In total, our team, which is a bipartisan team, has about 150 years of lobbying experience between all of us. Every person you're looking at on the screen there has previously worked in some capacity for the legislature, whether it's the House or the Senate. Many of us have also worked for political parties, worked for other consulting firms, and then in addition have worked for governors as well. So really diverse background for our group, and we cover a lot of different issue areas across the board. So we're a full service firm. We do everything from what you would consider traditional government relations and lobbying all the way through to strategic planning. I do a lot of procurement related work and assist big tech companies with their work with the state. We all go all the way through to like trade associations and do their work, and also have a team inside our shop that specializes in making sure we're compliant with our state's lobby laws as well. So that's a very important part of what we do. I'm going to let Adam jump in and talk a little bit about us, and maybe he'll give a little bit of his background as well. So people often ask us, what does a lobbyist do? I know it's a question I get from my mom all the time, so I'll let Adam try to answer that.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for having us here. We're very appreciative for the opportunity to speak to you. A little bit of background on myself. I have worked in Lansing for over 20 years in the House and the Senate. My previous job was Chief of Staff for a senator in the Michigan Senate. We focused a lot on appropriations issues. He's now the Minority Vice Chair of the Appropriations Committee. And a lot of us have great experience in the appropriations and the policy world. And beyond my work in Lansing, I actually got to serve in a similar role as what you're serving in now. And my experience comes from the west side of the state. I was a county commissioner in my home county and served for 8 years. So local government is a passion of mine, and I really enjoy it. And so you're to be commended for taking on these roles, because they're not always easy. But one of the things I like the best is you got to see the fruits of your labor, and you got to see the things that you did and how they made a difference every day for the citizens you represent. So a lobbyist, what do? We become an extension of your staff here at Independence Township. And, you know, whether it's advocating on behalf of any sort of legislation or against legislation that could be detrimental to you, or working to get funding in the budget, or speaking to regulators on your behalf on any relevant issues that impact Independence Township, we represent all of you. So how do we do it? Well, we're very proud to be able to build very good relationships in Lansing. It's regular communication with our clients, regular communication with legislators, getting to know legislative staff, because as former legislative staff, we know where most of the work truly comes from. The legislators are there to vote on things, and they understand, but when you're working on constituent issues or you're working on policy, the staff is there. So building those relationships with staff is huge. Local events will come to legislators' local events in their districts, and will attend some of their fundraisers in Lansing as well. And we actually have really good relationships with your state legislators, which I think is a good benefit. So when I was my former role as a chief of staff in the Senate, I got to know both Senators Johnson and Runstead, and I know Mike has a great relationship with Representative Harris. And then beyond your legislators, we talk to a lot of people as well. So on the screen, we talked to the governor's office, the majority leader, minority leader in the Senate, Speaker of the House, minority leader in the House. We have relationships with close to all 110 members of the House and 38 members of the Senate, policy staff, executive staff, and State Department directors and liaisons. Because these are all going to be people, in order for Independence Township to be successful with the things they want to achieve, that you have to have an open line of communication with. So we want to talk a little bit about state departments specifically, because Michigan has over a dozen of them, right? That cover a lot of the regulatory areas in the state of Michigan. And, excuse me, we'll work with you to develop relationships with all of these regulators. Our backgrounds have equipped us with the knowledge and the contacts to just pick up the phone and to address some of the concerns that you might have. So as an example today, I was on the phone with Eagle, so Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, one of the executive staff in that department, for a client that's having an issue with a wetland. I can't imagine that anybody here in Independence Township's probably had issues with Eagle before, right?
Yes, we have.
They're trouble, and it's hard to deal with them. We can pick up the phone and we can call them immediately, and they call us back, and we can get meetings set up very quickly. And I think with the phone call that I made today, it will help set up a meeting that will probably resolve an issue that a client that I have has been dealing with for probably 6 months now. We have those same relationships at MDOT and MEDC, and those are a lot of the departments that you guys are probably dealing with probably on a weekly, monthly basis. Some of the other issues that we deal with the regulators on with Eagle, pollution mitigation issues and getting grants and getting funds to help clean up various areas of the state. Infrastructure, repair and maintenance. We've been able to successfully secure some dollars for that. Economic development projects, and working with our clients to secure grant funding for parks and recreation projects. Each of these departments, they're multi-layered and they're complex, and we're able to work with our clients to make it easier and get through the red tape that the supervisor I talked about. This is one of the fun slides that we have. It says, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. Annually, there are over 4,000 bills that are introduced by the legislators in Michigan. And many of them do impact local government. So the supervisor talked about House Bill 4965, has to do with franchise fees, PEG fees from cable companies. House Bill 4965 could cost Independence Township, not today, but down the road, $600,000 in revenue that you severely need. And so this flew through the House of Representatives. We have been able to, I've made personal calls to the chair of the Senate Oversight Committee, and we put the brakes on it. And they have assured us that it's not going to come up in this week, which is going to be their last session week. And they're not going to discharge it out of committee. They're going to make sure that we take our time and have a thoughtful discussion about this instead of ramming it through the process. So that's one of the things that we become really good at, being your eyes and ears and listening for these things that you may not always know how it's going to impact you, but we can be there to look out for you and communicate back to you what's going on. The other thing is because of the tons of bills that are being introduced all the time, we're fortunate to represent the Michigan Municipal League, the Michigan Townships Association, and those are wonderful partner organizations that we work with all the time. But they represent, the Townships Association represents all the good of the townships, what's best for townships in general and for local government. And what we do is we advocate for Independence Township specifically on the issues that are important to you. Now we'll work in conjunction and hand in hand with MTA on those bigger and broader issues, but we'll be there fighting for you on legislation that could potentially impact you differently than a different township, or grants or various projects like that. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mike so he can talk specifically about some of the things that we'll do for you.
Yeah, I love when this happens, but two of the issues that were mentioned earlier tonight are actually two issues I've worked specifically on. So prior to my work at Midwest Strategy Group, I worked for Brad Jacobson, who was a state representative here in North Oakland County, kind of a well-known name. They own Jacobson's Flowers. We did a lot of work on speed limits, and we're actually successful at the time in lowering gravel road speed limits in counties with a population over 1 million down to 45 miles an hour. You can actually request from the road commission about dropping speed limits, and they can drop that limit to 45. I know it's not 30 or 25, but it was a compromise that was made with state police at the time. So worked really extensively in that, have actually authored those sections of law, know a ton about it. Also, we assisted another township client of ours on getting a traffic light on an M road in Kochville Township, which is where Saginaw Valley State is. They have an area there that's very built up and developed and has street lighting and everything else. Then they jump about a mile, and then the college campus is about a mile out into kind of a more rural area. They needed to add a traffic light. We worked with MDOT to get them a traffic light that will be installed at the state's expense after they had a fatal accident at that intersection. It's a very high-speed, 55-mile-an-hour stretch of road. So it's always fun when that happens, but those are two examples I've worked on directly just in the last 5 or 7 years related to the township and how we can assist. One thing that we love to do is come in to a community, and we will sit down with the leadership team in the community, spend several hours with them, speak to all the different department directors. We will build a list of everything we should be watching, build a strategic plan about how we're going to get there, who we're going to talk to, what the methods are going to be to do that, working with both your local legislators like Mike Harris or Jim Runstead or Ruth Johnson, and then in addition, the legislators beyond that, whether it be appropriations chairs or other committee chairs. So we specialize in kind of knowing who to talk to and then taking that and bringing it to you guys and saying, where do you want to go and sort of how do we get there? So that's one of the first things we do. Upon being retained, we probably would be down within the next week or two to do that at you guys' preference. So I know infrastructure is a huge issue. I just talked on a couple transportation-related issues. We've been very successful on broadly having a really good relationship with MDOT, helping answer questions, helping resolve ongoing problems. I know traffic's always an issue. I know we're not far from Pine Knob. Things like that, we can help work with MDOT and the Road Commission. We have some of those existing relationships. Economic development, historic preservation, we've worked on many of those projects. Nicole Nystrom, who's our owner and CEO, was one of the original appointees to the Jobs Commission, which later became the MEDC and the Engler administration. So we've got a ton of background in economic development. We've actually had folks on our team that have authored big chunks of the statute that govern those types of projects. We do a lot of work in historical preservation, TIFA, those different types of tax capture authorities, and really specialize in having all these relationships with the state to be able to bring those to you folks and kind of execute on that strategic plan. I didn't put parks on here, but we've also been very successful in park funding. We've done about $1.2 million for the city of Rochester Hills, doing some work with them for one of their larger city parks that's been very successful. So those are some examples. I know we've got some recent wins that we've sort of accomplished just in the last 6 months or so. We've been very successful in getting a $75 million appropriation for the city of Rochester Hills as it relates to cleanup of a property they have. They have an old landfill that is really very difficult to build anything on. It's one of the few open, larger parcels left in the town. We managed to, as part of an appropriations process, get them $75 million for the city directly and specifically for cleaning up that area. We've gotten some dollars for Orion Township for the GM plant. The road, for those of you who've driven over there, Brown Road is in really rough shape, as well as Giddings and that whole area around the plant there. We've been successful in securing about $11 million for the township and the road commission to go in and repave that and basically make sure that GM doesn't have to pick which direction their trucks come in, given how the road looks that day, given how often they patch it. So that's another recent success. We've also received dollars for Chesterfield Township recently. They have a very large interceptor drain project that we've gotten $5 million for to be able to rebuild that infrastructure for them. So again, we want to be able to come in, meet with your team, sit down, make that plan, execute on it, take it to Lansing, and then try to bring things back for you guys, whether it's dollars or even knowing the right person to call to resolve your issues. So that's a little background kind of about what we do and how we operate and how we would execute on. Just from a contract perspective, it would be a one-year contract, but our firm also has a 30-day written notice out in that contract as well. So at any point, that's something for you to be aware of. I think it provides a lot of comfort for local governments who say, hey, this is a big spend for us, and we want to make sure if we're spending this kind of money that we're getting service and results. And I'm very proud to say we've never lost a client, for lack of work or lack of effort on our list. So if anyone's got questions on the board, we're more than happy to answer them and about how we interact. And we do come down and do regular board updates. I am about 7 minutes away, so I'm not too much trouble to get here. Thank you.
Sure. Any questions from board members? Just a comment. So you're saying that basically when you guys start working with the township, you will meet with directors, board
Correct.
members to identify the goals. So after you identify the goals, you will work in some legislation,
Yep.
right?
That's
Based on the needs of each department, like we have DPW here, fire department, and of course they have probably
Yep.
some
We,
issues. So
We frequently do what I call director speed dating, where we'll come down, usually every 3 or 6 months, we'll sit down with all the directors. Everyone will get to pick a 15-minute time slot or 30-minute time slot to sit with us for a couple hours. We'll go through your legislative docket of all the bills we're tracking or talk about all the issues we're working on and just do a little touch point in person. We're more than happy to do that. We do it with several of our other local clients.
okay. Just for the board members, as you see, the contract will start on January 1st because, like Mike says, the legislation is going to adjourn. So there's nothing going on between November and December. So that's why in January we start the contract. So, any questions? No? Any?
had a comment.
A comment? Okay.
Should the board take action to move forward with them? I don't see that it was done. I think that legal should review the contract, so we could make the motion pending legal review. I don't believe they've looked at it.
Good.
I'm in favor of that as just a stipulation as part of the motion. I
Mhm.
also am in favor of, we've got some big things coming up that we
Yeah.
want to do, some big projects, and we got to get some money. We got to find
Yeah.
money. We're not going to find it if we don't pay people to find it for us. So I think it's worth the investment to see what the return's going to be. And it's not a long-term contract. It's not a huge investment. And if they produce, we're going to come out big winners. So I'm in favor of trying anything we can to get money from anywhere other than the taxpayers that we can to make improvements.
Okay, so what you're saying is basically we can make a motion for this, but up to legal review?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move to accept a bid proposal for government relations and lobbying services with Midwest Strategy Group, entering into a one-year contract in the amount of $48,000 or $4,000 per month, starting January 1st, 2024, subject to legal review.
Support.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Two opposed. Okay. Okay. 4-2. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Now, number 3, we took number 2. So number 3, request to approve the out-of-state travel of Laura Haynes, or PR. Laura, can you please come up front?
Good evening. So I have a item on the agenda for out-of-state travel. This is the Government Social Media Conference, which is overseen by the Government Social Media Association, and it's a 2.5-day event taking place in California. This conference provides the opportunity to share best practices, hear from industry leaders, and network with other government communications professionals. While it is billed as social media, it really is an overall comms conference, communications conference, and is geared towards anybody in the communications space. Already for 2024, Fenton Township, the City of Pontiac, and the City of Grand Rapids have already registered to participate. In your packet, you have last year's participants from Michigan, such as Rochester Hills, a number of state departments, a number of county departments, a number of just counties in general. And then I did want to point out, too, that Andrew Bellinger, who is the statewide social media director and digital content manager for the state of Michigan, actually serves on their board for this organization. So the state has bought into this organization. Oakland County has bought in. A number of our communities surrounding us have bought in and are attending the conference as well. The conference will cost just over $2,200 to the township, and it is budgeted in the 2024 budget, in the supervisor's budget. We are doing this early because at the end of November, the prices for the conference itself go up. So if we're going to do this, I wanted to register for the conference sooner rather than later. So we would get the lowest cost possible to the township. So I'm happy to answer any questions, if there are any, or any comments.
Yes. Clerk Newick?
Does this work towards any certification for you, or is this just, I mean, is this something that you'd be looking to do every year towards a certification or CEUs or?
So they don't provide any of that stuff because this is a relatively new association. It's only about 5 years old. Going for the first year will really give us a good idea of if it is worth it to continue to go every year. They do also have quarterly online meetups for their regions, which is another thing that we would, next year I will officially join the association because it's budgeted for next year. So I will also be able to participate in those type of things next year. But at this point, there's no CEUs, there's nothing official like that, no certifications that come with it.
I appreciate you being proactive and trying to save money on registering early. I wanted to comment on that.
And it's a pretty good value at $2,200 for 2.5 days, and that includes the airfare, the hotel, the registration. They include breakfasts and lunches every day. I don't need a car because it's all on site. So there's no car rental included. There's nothing like that. I think I added in $50 for Uber to and from the airport because it's only 2.5 miles or 3 miles away. So everything is very tightly compacted. There's no extra expenses in terms of car rentals and things like that. And the price is very reasonable for a national conference for a large organization like this.
I think it might be
Okay.
interesting, just, I'm sorry, as a follow-up, maybe after your conference, if you come back and give us some feedback on maybe some ideas that were interesting to you, or,
Absolutely.
I think that might be great.
Absolutely.
Any other board members?
Yeah, I just
Trustee
like
Morocco?
to say, I'm always in favor of continual education and learning new things. If we're going to advance, we got to stay on top of things. It's moving pretty fast. And I did notice that the hotels and the food stipends were very reasonable. I don't know how you guys get these great deals, but I'm glad that you find them. And then that just on your note, that just the fee to go to this at the reduced rate is almost half the cost of the whole trip. So it's not money being spent on travel and lodging and stuff as much as half the cost almost is just to participate. So I support. At least she's new. It's a new department. I think we have to give her all the tools that we can to make it as successful as she can be coming right out of the gate. So I support it.
Yeah.
I
Any
appreciate the breakdown of the form, the expense form she filled out too. That, a lot of times we don't get that ahead of time. So I think like Sam said, you see the cost of the class itself compared to the overall cost. It really makes it, a lot more explainable anyway. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion.
I'll move to approve the out-of-state travel for Laura Haynes, PIO, to attend the Government Social Media Conference held in Palm Springs, California, from April 15th through 18th of 2024.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's actually It's a request of appointment for the committee members. This is for the Open Space Committee. I received a lot of applications. I call some of the members and I make my decision for recommend to the board for Kevin Rosnick and William Scarborough. I talked to them and they're committed to be in the Open Space Committee. And the resumes, I believe, is right there. Yep. So if you guys don't have any questions, I would like to get a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll move to appoint Kevin Rosnick to fill the remainder of Kevin Bushrow's term on the Residential Open Space Advisory Committee ending December 31st, 2023.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion B.
I'll also move to appoint William Scarborough to fill the remainder of Cheryl Janaka's term on the Residential Open Space Advisory Committee ending December 31st, 2023.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay,
I just had a comment to
Sure.
follow up on that, now that we have a Parks and Rec Director, Adam Klein will be stepping in then to take the place of Lisa Christensen
okay, yeah,
on the committee, just so
Yeah.
yeah,
we'll get him sworn in with the other members, we'll reach out to them, so.
okay, thank you. All right, now we have our DPW Director, Dave McKee. Dave?
Good evening, everyone. So tonight, the first item I have on the agenda tonight is some housekeeping. So if the board recalls, back in November of last year, we received a grant from Oakland County. It was a matching grant of ARPA fundings from them for $100,000 from them. We matched it for $100,000. It was to do PFAS investigation for private wells in the township. I don't want to get too deep into it, but you're all aware that we do have a PFAS problem in Independence Township, and we've been addressing that, and we have received money to address the problem through the bipartisan infrastructure law. So part of the agreement that we had with Oakland County was that there was a resolution and there was an agreement for this matching grant. So the Oakland County, apparently I'll be nice to them, they didn't have quite their ducks in order, and so they have to change the resolution and the agreement to fall in lines with federal guidelines for ARPA reporting. So this is some housekeeping. It doesn't change any of the terms of the agreement or anything of that nature, but this is more of a housekeeping issue for Oakland County. And they are requesting that a new agreement gets reapproved and a new resolution gets approved from the Township Board for this grant.
Okay. Any questions from board members? No? I need a motion?
I'll move to adopt resolution number 2023-020 to approve amendment number 1 to the local fiscal recovery fund distribution interlocal agreement between Oakland County and the Charter Township of Independence, and authorize the Public Works Director to sign amendment number 1 as presented.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next.
My last item here that I have is, this addresses our drinking water state revolving fund that we received $5.4 million in 100% loan forgiveness through the bipartisan infrastructure law to address our PFAS issue. At the time, we wanted to, I received from the board tentative approval of the competitively bid contractor to do the installation based on the approval and through signing off and approval through the Michigan Finance Authority on telling us we're going to get the money. Your board packet for this item, you can see it's like 800 pages long. Everything is in there. I know. The clerk's office is not happy with me about that, but I can't say I didn't give you everything. But in the Miller Canfield report, who was our bond counsel for this, they have everything is very well detailed in here on that we have been approved by the Michigan Finance Authority. And at that time, when I was here at the board, I said I would come back to get formal approval for our contractors. So I'm fulfilling that statement I made. We've already tentatively approved this contractor, but I want to make it clear that we're now getting formal approval. to get this contractor on board. They can sign the contract documents. They'll be ready within the next week or so for the supervisor to sign. And this project's going to start in spring of next year. And we're very excited about it. So, looking to get formal approval for the contractor, DWRSF.
Okay, any comments from board members? Okay, I need a motion.
Move to accept the proposal received from Superior Excavating of Auburn Hills, Michigan for professional services associated with DWSRF project number 7696-01 as outlined in the agreement in the amount of $3,349,027.50 plus an additional contingency amount, 6%, of $201,000 for a total of $3,550,000 $550,027.50, and direct the supervisor to sign the notice of award and contract as the authorized representative of the township.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. We now have a budget session, so communication, future agenda item report. I have Oakland County Sheriff Department, September 2023. Building Department, October 2023. Election Commission, March 29, 2023. Information Technology Oversight Committee, September 12, 2023. Safety Path Advisory Committee, August 9, 2023. All right, board members' comments. Board member comments, okay? No debates or forum, it's a board member comments. Any board member comments? All right, Carrie?
Just wanted to remind board members that next Wednesday and possibly Thursday will be our special meetings for the interviews. We currently have 6 applicants that have applied for trustee. And due to the removal of the budget hearing this evening, we are tentatively planning to schedule that to add on to either next Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how we can fit it in time-wise, to keep us in motion so we can get this all done before the end of the year for Rick. So
Yeah.
that's all I have.
Any other, what, Paul?
I have a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Clarkson Wolves football team, they beat Lake Orion Friday in a huge upset. So very excited for them in the playoffs. And the other thing was just to ask folks to keep the Stolian family in their prayers as our former trustee fights his battle that I know he's going to win. And every little bit helps. So keep him in your prayers, and I want him to know the board's thinking about him.
Here, here.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, anyone else? All right, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Thank you.
Is Rick second?